Good afternoon, listeners. This is Giles Edwards from 366 Weird Movies. I'm in the Fantasia VIP room with a very important Potrykus named Joel, whose movie is playing later today. I had the good fortune of sneaking in a screener just an hour ago, so it is fresh on my mind.
I was told you wouldn't be seeing it until Tuesday.
Plans have changed, and I thought instead of being unprepared by not having seen the movie, I'll be differently unprepared by not quite having a flow of questions ready.
I was somewhat legitimately disappointed that you would not have seen it before we talked.
Well, I am glad to let that disappointment go away, because I have seen it and quite enjoyed it. And of course, the movie I'm talking about is Vulcanizadora.
Yeah, with an A. Vulcanizadora.
Isadora, excuse me.
Yes.
And it had a combination god name and opera suffix there.
It's intentionally difficult to pronounce, so congratulations.
Okay, well, I'll say I was 80% there, and I'll take that considering this is my first interview. But I've been talking enough. Joel Potrykus, you have directed yourself, but more so you have directed a frequent collaborator of yours, Mr. Burge. And this is certainly follows characters and events from an earlier movie of yours, if you might care to briefly mention Buzzard and what made you want to revisit that duo.
It wasn't the first thought about the movie. It was really out of necessity, because I wanted to cast Josh. And the secret formula for all my movies is that Josh is the straight man, and then there's a comic foil. Or even with Alchemist Cookbook, there's somebody who's the straight man, and there's the comic foil. I was thinking about, because you got to have somebody funny in this movie, or else it's just overwhelmingly glum and gloomy and dark. And I didn't know who could and I also didn't know that I didn't want to write a big script. I just wanted to outline most of it. And so I was trying to think about who could handle like an improv situation, and the only guy I thought of was Andre Hyland, who's in Relaxer.
Mm-hmm.
But I already made him a movie with him and Josh together, and I thought that if you had seen Relaxer, that would have been too much of a stretch to now think they were different characters. And so I was like, I could handle it, but I've already been in a movie with Josh also. And then I was like, oh, we could just come back to those two guys 10 years later. And then when that happened, I was like, this movie just took on a whole new importance to me, and this is amazing. And I don't care if you've seen Buzzard now, and it doesn't have anything that really, you don't have to have seen it. I was like, this is giving so much depth if you have seen Buzzard to that story. So that's when I got really excited and interested in it, is when I cast myself after about 3 months of banging my head against the wall and trying to figure out who was going to be in this movie with Josh.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely say one needn't have seen Buzzard to enjoy this, because I haven't seen Buzzard yet, but now having seen I don't know if chemistry is quite the right word for the relationship between...
Explosive chemistry.
Between Derek, your character, and Marty, Josh Burge's character. So just diving in there into the middle of the woods with a pair of seemingly randomly wandering guys whose goal slowly unfolds and then has its climax, followed by a coda of sorts for Marty there. My boss, who has seen, I think, maybe all of your stuff by now, might have missed one or two of your short films. I remember last year, you had a short here.
Yeah, a couple years
ago. With a sort of fantastical element there of a group of young people on the field and in pursuit of something. But he had a question inquiring about this being a follow-up to Buzzard, and you've largely covered that now with your requirements for making this and such, devising it so that you and he could do your improv in the woods. he had a sort of a joking follow-up question inquiring after the fireworks budget, because fireworks are a key element in this buddy-esque picture here.
Sure.
And I was vaguely curious about the outlay for that. From what I observed, it's a bunch of snakes and some of those little snap things.
So you did know what the black snakes were, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people, I just talked to somebody who had no idea what those were, had never seen them. And he didn't know what they were either, like little black snakes. Yeah.
Do you know how old the other person might have been? Because I'm kind of wondering if there's this weird hard cutoff.
I think so. I mean, they still sell them.
Yeah.
And my son's into them. But I've been surprised by how many people who've seen the movie go, what are those things? And I'm like, those are black snakes, man.
It's one of the blandest fireworks out there.
Yeah. And it was like, when you're a kid, it's like, just do one at a time. And it was really like, it was the first time I'd ever done a whole pile. I was like, we're going to just roll it, maybe some magic will happen. We just put them all together. I was like, we're only going to have one take because this is all I bought. And it was like, yes.
Oh, it was perfect. That tentacle thing filling up the screen was, I guess lucky.
It was totally lucky. It's the kind of thing where if you're not an independent filmmaker, that's the first thing they're going to tell you to cut out of the movie because it doesn't do anything for the story.
Oh, well.
But as I was watching, I was like, as we were shooting, I was like, this is my favorite shot in the whole movie, everybody, because it was just perfect.
Well, it's certainly indicative of the character Derek, who has somewhere below his forced enthusiasm for life, I think, is a genuine enthusiasm that he's been trying to recapture.
Yeah.
One of the things I got from this, not having seen Buzzard, is it's really two of the saddest couple of guys that you're going to see on screen trying to recapture whatever tiny amount of magic they might have had back. I imagine they probably hit their life's peak sometime around the age of 11.
Exactly. I say 15, but
okay.
Yeah, you're close. Yeah, they definitely peaked at 15. One of your colleagues called them losers, but I think sad is much better. They are sad characters. They are defeated. I love them too much to call them losers.
Oh, yeah. Well, I try to generally be civil, and even otherwise, sad is that it's a sad movie with a lot of comedy.
Sad, funny, scary were the three notes we were trying to hit. Even every single scene, I wanted to hit those three notes. Yeah, I'm glad you got that. It is oppressively sad. And I think it can only be sad if you love the character. If you're like making it, you love the characters to give them some kind of humanity.
Oh yeah.
They have lost at life, but they have tried, I think. But yeah, that was like the big thing. It was like, guys, we're making this. Gotta be sad. This is sad, sad. I just want to overwhelm people with sadness the whole time.
And the frightening thing. There are a number of, I'll call them ironic counterpoint musical cues. You tap heavily into the more obvious bits of opera, certainly in the opening credits before it segues into, I'm guessing, the La Voix Humaine becomes For Fuck's Sake.
No.
That
becomes one that's not listed in the credits because we don't have the rights.
Oh, okay. So that becomes, yes, the generic sampler file you get on your laptop for metal. I understand entirely.
Yes.
So, I was lucky you got that too.
Yeah, thanks.
Because that was a nice thing. And also, the musical cue, especially the best combination of fright and sadness. And of course, there's the ridiculousness, is a very pivotal scene on the beach, and there's this very soft background score moment with whatever dramatic instrumentation is going on when we finally learn what Marty and Derek have planned to do. I don't know which of this, because I wrote down
that score. That is actually that song that we don't have permission to yet, and I accidentally I slowed it down when I was editing the movie, and made that sound, and I was like, that's going to reoccur throughout the movie.
Okay.
And so that song accidentally slowed down to like an extreme pitch shift, and it sounds almost industrial, or like death industrial.
It's definitely carried menace.
Yeah, very menacing. So yeah, the opera's tragedy and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be a tragedy, so it makes sense to me at least.
Yeah, as other recurring elements, there's a constant looking for something in the ground. One of the earliest scenes, looking around, there's the discussion of the strange carp anecdote, which, now that you mention that there was a lot of free form on a sort of outline framework, Derek's line of dialogue makes a whole lot more sense to me, as in, I'm not saying you didn't plan it, but there's a spontaneity to it where...
As we were walking to shoot that scene, somebody was telling us about their friend putting piles of dead carp out in the woods, and I was just laughing the whole time, and I was like, we're gonna just... I kept asking questions. I was like, because I'm gonna tell that story here in a second when we roll the cameras about the kid who would pile up dead carp in the woods, and then his friends would take him home, and the moms would go, "This is what you caught fishing?" Like, no, we caught it out in the woods. And she's like, "Where?" "In the carp pile." I was like, I can't write that. I can't write that. That's going in there.
That's nice. So there's that sort of treasure thing. There's the hidden cache of magazines from years back, and of course the macabre punchline of digging in the sand as well. Did Burge? Did you send him out and just have him constantly dig? Because I quite like the twilight shot of the lone sad man on the shore, and you see some digging, and then there's a long shot, and you see, I don't know, a couple dozen small dunes that weren't there
That's
before.
our cinematographer's favorite shot, because everybody asked if there was like a matte shot or something, but that's what we really did, just dig all those holes on the beach, and it took us a few hours to do it. But yeah, digging, somebody told me, like, "Oh yeah, you're getting back into your digging stuff," and I was like, "I don't even know what that means." And like, all your movies, people are like digging, and I was like, "Oh, I guess so." And so that's not something I think about, but I love something about finding stuff under dirt or under piles and things that I really am into. And I actually, and I didn't even think about it for a long time, I pitched a movie called Digger, where a guy literally digs a hole to China, and we just follow him, like Wes Anderson style, through like this ant farm hole. So I don't know, digging is just something I'm into that just seeps its way into the stories.
Yeah, well, of course, Burge's character Marty has his talks about when he met God, who was in the bottom of a hole, and I think his character looks most majestic, still sad, but probably the most majestic and purposeful. Cleaned himself up slightly, and then the final bits where he's wandering around with a shovel, it was sort of gratifying to see that he finally had purpose.
He has something to do. He's driven.
And and there's a lot of, in the sadness there's a bit of absurdity. It's a situation in this world, and I imagine it is something of a reflection to one degree or another of the world around us, in that there are these small tragedies happening everywhere. We're looking at Derek and Marty's small tragedies, and whenever we look at the system, you go out of your way, it seems, to point out how much the system just doesn't care. Either way, it doesn't want to punish. Marty tries to, at various points, to get comeuppance that he feels he deserves, and the system says, nah.
That's why I think what's going on in the system is that everybody, I don't know if everybody does, I just assume that everybody thinks the way that I do. And so if I was like a police officer, it would be a lot easier for me to just say, I didn't see it, or go away, and have to deal with all that paperwork. And now this is the next 5 hours of my shift, is dealing with this guy. It's easier, just go, just leave. So there's this neglect, and it's much easier to sweep things under the rug than it is to actually deal with them. So that's more the sad things that I'm going for, is that nobody cares in the world about anything that's important to other people or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of not caring, and there's the dynamic with Marty and Derek is absolutely fascinating, perhaps particularly for me, not being at all aware of what their history may have been. But I guess for my own trivia curiosity, what's the ratio of Derek's dialogue to Marty's?
I just told Josh, I said, don't worry, you're not going to have to say anything. I'll just carry the load. You just look kind of pissed off and bothered the whole time. So I would say it's 9-1, if that's a ratio.
Yeah, that's a great ratio.
Yeah, so there was I said, in this scene you're going to say this, Josh. But otherwise, it's just like, just walk from here to there and I'll do the rest.
Yeah, now I remember it was 7 or 8 years ago when I spoke to you for the first time for Relaxer. You mentioned Josh was a good actor, especially in that he's actually a charismatic, fun guy.
Yeah.
I have seen him now in 2 roles. And I've heard about his performance in Buzzard, and obviously see reflections of that in this, kind of follow-up here. Do you ever plan to make a movie with him that exhibits those traits of charisma and joie de vivre?
I think about that all the time. I feel bad for him that I just write these like angry, pissed off, quiet guys, because it's not him. And he wants, whenever he comes up with ideas, or like he's a musician, his songs are about love and explosive things, like not fireworks, but happiness and peace. And he is so not Marty, and I do feel like I've not really done him justice in who he is. He's got a great smile. In Vulcanizadora, I said you can only smile once in this movie, so don't smile. I'm not going to smile.
Yes.
Yeah. So someday somebody's going to really tap into his. Sounds crazy to say, to his personality, but I might not be that guy to ever do that. Who gives a shit about happy people?
I mean, I've heard, that sentiment before, and being a happy person myself, I try not to advertise that too much, because I understand that others aren't nearly so fortunate. But
Josh is so much happier than he was like 5 years ago. He's a happy, really happy, optimistic guy, happier and happier.
So it's getting worse for him.
Yeah, someday I'll write him a love story or something. I don't know, man.
Well, I'm running out of time, but speaking of that one smile, there is the ending to this movie, which I won't comment specifically on, but it is sort of ambiguous, and you've obviously revisited this character after a 10-year gap, when it dawned on you that this was the thing for you to do. Do you think there's any future for Marty as an entity in points down the road?
The rest of the gang wants to see the 10 years from now Prison Break movie. Like seriously, like Down by Law style. I'm more like thinking Bad Boys with Sean Penn style, more gritty. But we have already started to think about that 10 years from now.
Oh, that's
Marty in prison.
That's going to be fantastic. It was great to visit those 2 sad gentlemen for the hour and a half. The film is Vulcanizadora. Director is Joel Potrykus. Normally close on asking our talent here what their hometown is and their favorite restaurant. I guess we can ask you again and see if it's changed in the 7 or 8.
Did you ask me 6 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to know. Did you write it down?
We have it on file. We can definitely get that back to you.
So I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan. My favorite restaurant is Quarantino's, which didn't exist 6 years ago. It arose during the quarantine, which is a Detroit-style deep dish pizza, and they've still kept the name Quarantino's, even though now it's kind of just like a sad reminder of the dark times. Maybe 6 years ago I said Tacos El Cuñado, but I don't remember.
Maybe. Yeah, I can double check. The interview is still out there on the web, and I believe my boss has started compiling the list of like directors and actors' hometowns and their restaurants. So I think somewhere we even have an official list of people we've spoken to recommending places to eat. So
did we do like a recording style one last time? Because I actually have a published book that an annual book that you guys release.
Yeah,
of the 2018 edition when you covered Relaxer, but I didn't read it. I didn't care to read my words.
We quite probably transcribed the interview.
Wow, I gotta see what that was.
But I got to get going. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to catch up with you. Hopefully next time we won't be waiting the 6-7 years. And so this is Giles from 366 Weird Movies signing off, having chatted with Joel Potrykus, Grand Rapids, Michigan's auteur.
Thanks, Giles.
Cool.
Fantasia. I remember the first time I heard about it, I got an email from our artistic director, Mitch Davis, who I'm sure many of you in this room already know, and it was just titled, "Hey, are you a fan of Joel Potrykus?" And I said, "Fuck yeah," and I clicked the link as fast as humanly possible, and I'm very happy that we have the international premiere of this film because I absolutely adore it. So everybody, give a big round of applause to director Joel Potrykus.
Now you have 2 microphones.
Yeah.
Hey guys. Hey Montreal. Thanks for coming to this. I'm going to stand up here the exact length needed for you to forget about who Skip is and clear your heads and get the Burge cleanse palating happening. Yeah, this is really stoked to show this. This is the first movie I've ever made where I can sit through it and then I'm excited to talk about it and really stoked that you guys are all watching it. Usually I just like, oh, it's my movie, I don't care about it, or nothing I don't care about it, it's just like, I want to fix that and that. There's nothing I want to fix in this movie, so I'm really like happy to show this to crowds and like get the Fantasia vibe, because this is, I think, an audience that will appreciate this kind of movie that may not follow certain conventions, I guess. I've been up here many times. I drove up here, so I'm from Michigan. We shot this movie in Michigan. So this is my 3rd time here, and it's always like some of the best crowds. So just thanks for coming out, guys, on a Friday night. Thanks for coming on a weekend on a Friday night. I really appreciate it. Really excited to come up here and talk about the movie afterwards with you guys and just hear what you thought.
That's right. All right. You're all going to love it, I'm sure. Have a great screening. Thank you so much. All right, what do you think? Everybody give another big warm round of applause for Director Joel. Stars.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, so I figured I'd start us off with some questions. The title of Vulcanizadora is a really interesting word, and I was wondering if you can kind of go into the significance of it.
Does anybody know what that means? That word means? All you French speakers, it's Spanish. It's a Spanish word that means tire repair shop, and there's a tire repair shop near my house, and it just says Vulcanizadora. And every time I drive by, I thought it was like the most beautiful word I'd ever seen. And for years, I've been trying to crowbar it into a movie. And so that's what this one is. That's why it's called Vulcanizadora. It sounds like an album title, you know what I mean? Like the album that the Pixies never made. And so, yeah, I just love the word, and I just wanted to call the movie Vulcanizadora. And it's kind of directly somewhat related to the movie, so
Sure.
we shoehorned it finally.
Awesome. Yeah, it really grabs your attention. That's
Cool.
for sure.
Cool.
You know, this is like my 4th time watching this, I think. I love it more every time, I have to say it. I'm not just saying that. When I initially watched it for the first time, I didn't have the context of it being a sort of sequel to Buzzard. And so I was wondering, what made you want to go back and revisit those characters so many years later?
Yeah, you don't have to know Buzzard at all to get this, which is the point. But if you do know Buzzard, then it's like expands the universe. I just was trying to figure out. I knew Josh was going to be in it, but I didn't know. So the way we do these movies is Josh is like the straight man. There's always somebody that's kind of goofy to give it that balance. If they're both straight men or they're both funny, then it's a comedy or it's a drama. And so I just didn't know who was going to be the funny person, and I don't know a lot of actors. And the one guy I thought could pull it off, I already cast him in a movie called Relaxer, and I thought that it wasn't worth it to me to to recreate two characters that had been in a movie already. Just didn't feel good for me. So I thought, well, I know I've written this, I can do it. And then I was like, but I've already done a movie with Josh. And I was like, oh, I've already done a movie with Josh. Oh my gosh, we can do this again. So once I figured out that it was just gonna be Marty and Derek from Buzzard, it was really easy, and all just happened. It was like I wrote it in a week, and it was like just made total sense to me to revisit these guys exactly 10 years after we filmed the first one. And Buzzard didn't play Fantasia. But to premiere the movie exactly the same summer 10 years later was like very cool to me.
Right, hell yeah. And I've been sort of referring to this movie as You're the Irishman, I think, in terms of statements. You don't have to agree.
I have no idea what that means.
That's fair. Well, the way I see it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it sort of seems like at least the characters in this film seem to have grown in an interesting way compared to where they were in Buzzard. And so I think, anyways.
No, I get it. This is like my most mature movie. It's like about adulthood and parenthood, and there's still all the silliness, but it's like counterbalanced with heavy shit for the first time. Like, it's like the first time I've ever dealt with emotions, so it's like a big deal for me. And that's why I hits. I watched the whole thing. I never ever watched it. I was back there taking notes, but I was just like watching it. And it still works for me. So I've watched it a couple more times than you, but not too many more times. But yeah, it's just like it has a different kind of weight than my other stuff. It's like I'd call it my Irishman.
Perfect. And within the gap between the two films, do you feel like you have any noticeable changes in the way, at least that you approach either characters or just making films in general?
Yeah, it's just because I had a kid. Like, that's my real son up there. And so that, like, you either go two ways, I think, when you have a kid. It's like, I was really freaked out that I was going to go, I guess Rodriguez has done a few different things, but he made a few movies for his kids. And I was terrified of making corny-ass shit for my kid. So I went the other way and just made something that he's not allowed to watch for a long, long time. And he doesn't really know... He knows a little bit about this movie, but it's like you have a kid and it's like, man, it's like, why do you make movies so stupid, But it's like, no, so I want it to mean something to me and to him. My wife produces these movies, so it's like, I don't know. It's all, again, it comes back to these emotions and stuff. It's new to me. It's cool. I dig it.
Oh, yeah, me too. And also in both Buzzard and this film, you sort of play with this idea of creation and destruction. In both movies, Marty creates something that absolutely fucks his life up. And obviously in Buzzard, there's a big power glove, Freddy Krueger hand, and in this we have the bombs. And I was wondering if you could sort of go into that theme a bit.
You've seen this 4 times. Have you seen the power glove in this movie?
No.
It's in there.
Where is it?
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay.
You got to watch it 5
I'll watch
times.
it 5 times.
Yeah, I don't know. My brother makes, so it's like family stuff. My brother makes all the appliances and all the gear and everything. And I don't know, to me, Marty is like that dude. I just grew up with a lot of dudes who were like a couple years older that were like making like bad stuff, like kind of little bombs and like weapons, and then they grew to like making electric guitars, like really smart people that were putting their talents to like really destructive and nasty ways. But that's just like kind of all I knew. It's just like I grew up on a weird dead end street with a bunch of like kind of white trash like metalhead dudes, and that's just like that was my world forever. And I just knew they were all like half of them were Martys and half of them were Derek's, and it's like I saw a lot of weird bad things that they made and destroyed, and so it just comes out into the movies. And my brother was definitely the dude who was making the bad stuff, and I was more the Derek guy, just kind of like giggling on the sidelines and watching.
So that's why you played the role so well.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, do we have any questions from the audience? Do not be shy, come on. Yes.
Oh yeah, how do we go about filming the forest stuff? Yeah, so like the stuff on the beach, like where I'm talking a long time, that was scripted. But all the other stuff was a lot of improv. Like there's that one scene early on where we're walking down a hill and Derek's talking about like carp pile.
somebody, I'm going to bring up a few people here in a minute, but that worked on it. Somebody was telling us that story about a dude who would catch carp and just throw them into a pile in the woods. As we were like walking to shoot that scene, I was like, keep going, I want to hear more, because that's what Derek's going to talk about, is this carp pile. The kids would take home the fish and have their mom cook them. I was like, that is so, I can't write that. So yeah, a lot of that, all Derek's ramblings is just kind of made up right on the spot. We just shot one take of everything. And then the other stuff, and like the campfire scene was just improv, and but the beach stuff was scripted, like the monologue stuff. So it was just like us just talking as a group and like hearing weird childhood stories. Like these guys are 15, like they're just 15-year-olds, so they're still talking about 15-year-old stuff and like still in that world. So it was a lot of 15-year-old stories. Then I was like, yep, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get more of that. Let's just do it. And then we'd walk up and see a deer blind, a hunting blind, right? And be like, oh, let's just shoot over there. I'll climb on top. So it was cool, just improving with wilderness, man. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah. Yes.
The final scene on the beach when he walks into the water, is that inspired by any other films?
Yes, so the final shot where he walks in the water, we actually we planned to death and rehearsed and built this crazy rig for a different ending and like brought it to the beach, and it was going to be really complicated. And so we were filming, Josh looks back and gives that smile, and I just yelled to him, I said, just go walk in the water, just walk. And he did it, and I was like, I looked at the DP and everybody else, I was like, that's the end of the movie. Forget this rig that we're like still like trying to build and deal with. That's the end of the movie. And to me, the best ending to any movie is being there. Cal Ashby, like it's just the most perfect ending. And so like as I was watching it, he's not walking on water, but I was like, there's something there, like it's one last swim. You know, it's Marty's last swim, and I was like, as he's doing it, I'm like, is he gonna like fulfill what he didn't happen on the beach, or is he like just taking one last dip of freedom before he goes to jail? I was like, it's cinema, man. This is perfect. I couldn't have written this. So it just happened in the moment, and it's like, I was really excited when that stuff happens.
Awesome. Anybody else have a question? Yes.
Yeah, I'm just curious about at what point did you choose that Godsmack song?
The Godsmack song. It was straight up, it was the very first song I thought of. I was like, that's it. There could have been a million songs, but it just seemed so perfect that Derek was going to get all cool and ritualistic to like, God, there was like a video, this dude who was going to do something bad to Bjork. And he made like a video of himself dancing around. It was like this weird ritual that's always stuck with me. And that was kind of my weird version of that. And I just thought he would, the Godsmack felt like really deep to him, the voodoo, and it's like witchy. And so it's just, this is the first thing I thought of. Didn't have to, it's 2 seconds. It's like, yeah, Voodoo by Godsmack. This is it, what Derek would listen to in that moment.
Hell yeah. Anybody else have a question? Nice.
Yeah, certainly not that I'm going to recreate it. I was curious, though, how many snakes were in that pile for the delightful burn effect that you had early on in their forest romp?
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people don't know what those things are. Those little black snakes that curl up and like burn. It's like a kid's firework. I don't know how many we had. We had like maybe 10 pack. We didn't practice it. I was just like, that was all we brought. And I was like, it's going to be cool. I've always wanted to do this. Why have we never just put a pile of black snake? Do you guys know black snake fireworks? They're like, you're supposed to like light one as a kid. Your mom and dad say, just light one. And it just like creates like a little black snake for like 10 seconds. But I was like, why don't we just do a bunch of them? Again, they're 15 years old. So like that would be a cool thing. And as we're watching it, as we're filming it, the whole crew is like, and it's like, that's just cool about making an indie movie like without like A24 breathing down your neck, because that's not gonna, they're not gonna let that, they're gonna cut that in half or they're gonna cut that out. But I was like looking at everybody's like, this is the best shot in the movie right here. I don't know, this is so badass. We're gonna let it roll out. So it was one take, just pile them up and burn it out, man. It's my Irishman, you know what I mean? That's over there.
Is it partially like a commentary that like white guys can commit any crime and not go to jail for it?
Yeah, maybe. But it's more like I just think. I was telling somebody earlier today who asked something similar. I was like, I just think that everybody thinks like me. Whereas if I was a cop, I would probably just be like, I don't want to deal with the paperwork. Just go. Like, it's just easier to not do your job than to do your job. But sure, white guys get away with it every time. Absolutely. I don't want to be up here and tell you what the movie's about or what it's supposed to mean. So I want you all to go on Letterboxd and give your big, commentary analysis. But sure, absolutely. Like, why not? Definitely. Love that. Really, like, it's... I can only put what's on the screen and you can read into it. I know we only have a little bit of time, so I want to bring up a bunch of people that made this movie. Like Sasha did, he was our sound, and Jackson was our assistant. You got to come up here when I say your name. Jackson was our assistant director, and Gene took a bunch of photos. And Max and Teo, these guys, the first movie they ever worked on, they're twin brothers. And then we got Ada, and this is Sasha. You going to come up? Come on, I can sit in it. And they're all family. These four here. And this is Gene took all the photos. This is assistant director to keep my mind straight as we're making the movie. So yeah, these are some people that I've been making movies with for a long time that live in Grand Rapids, Michigan. That just made the drive. We all drove up here, not together, but separately. That are just like, this is part of my band, man. Stop noise. This is the band. Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Throw in a final question here, but correct me if I'm wrong, you worked with many of the people on this stage before, right? Like on multiple films? Yeah. And obviously your partner or your wife produces your films. And with this being your most emotional film, did you find any was it hard to like not cross any lines going into this film a bit differently than the rest? If that makes sense.
What do you mean?
I mean in the sense of being so close to the crew in the way that you are, and opening up with this film in the way that you did.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't get all cryy and stuff when these guys I don't know. So, but I'm so like out as soon as it's over. Like I'm directing it, so I'm like, this big emotional scene. I'm like, cut. How'd it look? How'd it sound, Sasha? Jackson, we good? We got so it was very like kind of businessy. And to make myself cry in that close-up shot, I'm just watching the end of Field of Dreams on my cell phone, and it just like instantly did it. So it wasn't like I had to like get all deep and talk to these guys. It was like I was like, I'm just gonna cue up Field of Dreams. Just says, hey Dad, you want to have a catch? And it was like, oh, here we go, roll sound, roll camera, here we go. So it felt a little artificial probably to everybody. I didn't have to like get deep and like talk about where we were gonna go with this. So yeah, I don't know. It was it's mechanical, man.
All right, let's hear it one more time.
Thanks for coming out, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Give it up to the crew. Awesome. We'll be hanging out afterwards, I guess. Thank you. We can play again Tuesday if you want to see it again.